At this time, ladies and gentlemen, we would go straight to our next event, which is the keynote the second keynote for this summit. Let me invite Nicky Verd. Nicky Verd is our keynote speaker for this second segment. Now, please kindly come. Please, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for this amiable and delectable young lady. Please kindly stand here, and we will have the profile played for us. It's going to be an audio visual narration of her profile, very brief and abridged biography and profile of what she has been doing behind the scene and of course on a very global stage, so we can appreciate the value that she brings to this summit.
Nicky Verd is an internationally recognized digital futurist, AI strategist, best-selling author, and global thought leader on the future of work and digital disruption. Based in South Africa, she advises governments, corporations, and institutions across multiple continents on preparing for workforce transformation and AI adoption in an increasingly intelligent economy. Her best-selling book, Disrupt Yourself or Be Disrupted, has become a defining text for professionals and organizations navigating digital transformation. Nicky is known for her ability to make complex technological futures accessible and actionable, blending deep strategic foresight with human-centric design thinking. She has delivered keynotes at major global platforms and serves as a strategic advisor to organizations seeking to future-proof their talent culture and operational models. At the summit, she brings a powerful narrative on why human readiness is the most critical infrastructure in any innovation ecosystem. Nicky Verd's participation brings the human capital dimension to the summit's technology and commercialization narrative. Her expertise ensures the conversation extends beyond systems and infrastructure to address the people, culture, and mindset shifts required for any innovation ecosystem to succeed. Her global advisory experience validates the summit's cross-continental positioning and ensures relevance to both institutional leaders and students. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Nicky Verd.
Ignorance cannot be defended anymore. Benjamin Franklin said we are all born ignorant, but it takes a great deal of hard work to remain stupid. Right? So we cannot wake up one morning and say, oh, I didn't know the world was changing. No. Oh, I didn't know this disruption was going to happen at our university. No. You can't say, oh, I didn't know this disruption was going to affect me. No. There's enough information on the internet for you to educate and empower yourself about the change that is happening in the world today. We are in the age of information. You can educate yourself. so that you stay relevant, right? Another mindset or another way for you to make sure you are future ready is to anticipate industry changes. How is the education system changing as a university? The leadership has to ask those questions. Keep an eye on how AI is transforming, particularly the education system. Because understanding that direction will help you prepare for the future. Will help you prepare students for the world that is already here and even more disruption that is coming. So anticipate industry changes for you to stay relevant and adapt to change. One of my favorite quotes is from Charles Darwin, and he said, "It is not the strongest species that survives, nor the most intelligent. It is the one that is most adaptable to change." How many intelligent people are in the room this morning? Hello? There comes a time where your intelligence will not save you, and that time is now. Are there people doing bodybuilding or gymming every day? There comes a time when that physical strength will not save you, and that time is now. It is your ability to adapt to change. If you cannot adapt to change fast enough, you will not be able to be relevant. And Kakuza said the art of life is a constant readjustment to your environment. Are we constantly readjusting to the environment, or we are comfortable with how things have always been done? As a university, as students, as professors, are you constantly adjusting to the new environment, to the new landscape, to the new way of doing things, to the new way the education system is evolving? Are you adjusting to the environment? If you look at the chameleon, this picture right here, the chameleon changes its skin based on the color of the environment. Why? Because if it doesn't change to become pink, it is exposed to vulnerability. It is exposed to danger. So when it changes and it merges itself to the new environment, you cannot spot it, and danger cannot find it. So unless you are like a chameleon, you are exposed to vulnerability, economic vulnerabilities. Unless you become like a chameleon to change your mindset, to adjust according to your environment, you are going to find yourself with big certificates but with no economic value. You're going to be exposed to danger. So it is critical for you to adjust and adapt to the new world. Experience. There was a time where experience was everything. If you had 10 years experience, oh my God, yes, you had a big deal. You have 20 years experience, you are a legend, all right? But the world is changing so much that adaptability now beats experience. Because yes, you might have been in the industry for 20 years, you might have been in the industry for 30 years, but old knowledge can become new ignorance. Experience can become a liability. Unless you are telling me you have experience, you are a legend. All right? But if you have experience from 2010, it's time to evolve. All right? Yes, experience still has its place, but you have to pair it up with the new world and the new landscape and the things that are changing. Alvin Toffler said, the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. And I'm speaking to students, right? So learning is easy. Where we have a challenge as a society is in unlearning. Can you unlearn what no longer works? If you don't have an ability to unlearn what no longer works, you are considered the illiterate of the 21st century. So we need to be able to look around you, look at your work environment and ask, am I learning and unlearning as the time goes? Henry Ford said, anyone who stopped learning is outdated, whether at 20 or at 80. All right? And this is Now, when I speak about this in the school environment, it becomes a bit tricky, right? But irrespective of how many degrees and how many qualifications you have, don't let it become a prison. Where some people, you talk to them and they just, the only thing they're talking back to you, do you know how many degrees I have? Do you know what university I went to? That becomes a hostage situation. If you are relying so much only on certification, it makes you economically vulnerable. Because when disruption hits, they're not going around and looking for who has a degree, who has a PhD. They're looking for someone who can solve problems in real time. Degrees are wonderful. Education is wonderful. But there has to be more you bring into the table than just your degree. Because many organizations today are changing the requirements for entry in the workplace. It is not just your degree and what university you went to. It is, can this person solve problems in real time? Because many people are just certificated. They are not really educated. You have a stamp and you have a certificate on your wall, but can you solve problems? So when you have a degree, it is a starting point, not the end. When you are well educated, it is the beginning. It is the key to the door. Once you step into that door, what keeps you in the room will not be your degree and your certificate. Hello? Don't hate me. All right? Yeah. It's just the reality of the market today. Nobody really gets fired for lack of a degree. People get fired for lack of human skills, which is an entirely new, different session for us to go into, to talk about the human skills that are needed today. But however, many of them are covered in my new book. I know the introduction spoke about my first book. This is my second book. So many of the human skills that the marketplace needs today are also highlighted in my book as we carry on. And so relevance is rented. Are there landlords in the house? Are there people who are renting in the room? When you own something, you behave differently. Am I right? When you are renting, you become different as well. So the mindset of the owner and the mindset of someone renting are two different. The owner is comfortable. The person renting is on their toes, because if you don't pay your rent on time, you will be found yourself on the street. You'll be kicked out. Am I right? So if you think you own relevance, you stop trying. You stop evolving. You stop pushing yourself. You stop learning. Because what? You think, oh, I have a degree now, so I'm relevant. That's the mindset of an owner that doesn't push you to do big things in the world. The mindset of ownership of relevance doesn't push you to be innovative, which is quite dangerous. Again, degrees have their place, but you have to think and ask yourself, what will it take for me to be really relevant in the marketplace? A degree is just one aspect of it. A PhD is just one aspect of it, because relevance is rented, and the rent is due every day. How many people have DSTV? If you don't pay a subscription, what happens? Exactly. But people don't realize that if you are not paying a subscription to the marketplace, you also get disconnected. Because you are sending CVs that are not relevant. They can look at your CV and be like, well, he has a pretty much good certificate, went to a good school, but what else is there? Relevance is rented. Nobody owns it. No matter how rich you are, you cannot own relevance in today's age and time. It's a moving target. And you have to make sure you are moving with the time for you to stay relevant. Yes, it's good to brag about your degree, all right? It takes a lot of hard work to achieve that. Brag about it. But also remember that you need more than that to survive the new world of disruption that we have today. In fact, become a perpetual student, all right? Not a graduate. Again, no time to really go into details of that. Confront complacency. You know that people that will say, oh, I've worked here for so and so years, I've never made a mistake. That is someone who is complacent. You cannot fry an egg without breaking some shells. It requires a ton of mistakes and failures to really be innovative. We're at an innovation summit, right? The more you avoid mistakes, the more you avoid innovation. So anyone who brags and say, I've worked for so-and-so with this so-and-so company and I've never made a mistake, that's someone who is not evolving. That is someone who is not learning. That is someone who is not innovative. Your lack of ability to make mistakes shows that you are complacent and that you are just very comfortable wherever you are. Again, complacency believes that past success will ensure future stability, and that is the biggest lie of our time. Dear technology, can you not fail us at this critical moment? We are about to land this flight, but there are many people worrying about AI stealing their jobs, right? And I always say this, yes, that is one aspect of the worry, which is valid. But there's another aspect, which is that AI is stealing our minds. It's stealing our ability to be creative. It's stealing our ability to think. That is one of the worries you and I should be worried about, not just your job. Because if you're only worried about AI stealing your job, and thank God maybe you don't lose your job to AI, then the real threat isn't just job loss or unemployment. It is becoming mentally obsolete even while you're still employed. Every team has that person who is mentally obsolete, but they have a job. It's a pain to deal with. So there are a lot of things for us to worry about when it comes to artificial intelligence, and worrying about AI stealing our mindset is one of those. I'm going to show us a quick video. Hopefully it works. Let's see if this goes. Yeah, so there's some new research that speaks to this about how AI is taking over our minds and people are not able to think properly. Let's see if this works. Can we have sound? So, when it comes to artificial intelligence, like I said, there are multiple layers to this technology, all right? There are multiple truths to this technology. Job loss is one of it, not the entire thing humanity should be worried about. Worried about, even with kids today, they cannot function without these tools. Kids that are being raised by technology. Some of the things I've written in my new book. Kids that are being raised by algorithm. These are some of the things that we should be worried about. How will the next generation function if they cannot sit through a problem and try to figure it out, but quickly just do what? Prompt. And what people are doing today, they're not even thinking the prompts themselves. They're borrowing from their friends. Like, send me that prompt. How did you get this? Send me the prompt. So AI has removed the friction that makes innovation possible. Because the more you think over the many steps that requires for you to solve that problem, the more innovative you are. But if you can just turn to your neighbor and say, can I have that prompt? And you copy and you paste it to an LLM, and it gives you these answers. Many of us are not even reading through the answers ChatGPT gives us. Perhaps someone here in the room will receive an email starting with, here's the refined version. Hello? Because that is how mentally lazy we are becoming, to the point where whatever output this gives us, we don't even have a minute to read through it before sending. We copy, we paste. That is why I say worrying about job loss is one aspect of AI. Alright? Do we have sound now? Okay.
MIT researchers ran the first brain scan study of people using ChatGPT to write essays, and the results. They followed 54 people for 4 months. One group used ChatGPT, one group used search engines, and one group wrote the essays entirely on their own. Researchers monitored their brains using EEG scans, and the differences were striking. people writing without AI show the strongest brain connectivity, multiple regions of the brain actively working together. ChatGPT users showed the weakest neural engagement, but the most surprising finding came afterwards. 83% of the ChatGPT users couldn't quote a single sentence from essays they had written just moments earlier. They had almost no memory of what they produced. They then asked the ChatGPT group to write without it, and their brains stayed underengaged. Researchers called this effect cognitive debt. In other words, when a tool does the thinking for you, your brain practices thinking less. So, the lesson isn't don't use AI, it's how you use it. Use it to challenge your thinking, not replace it, because the goal isn't faster writing, it's a stronger mind.
That is clear, right? This is research coming from MIT on how the impact of AI on our minds. So humanity has many battles to fight. AI should be an assistant, okay? Microsoft calls it co-pilot for a reason. He didn't say pilot. They would have just said pilot. A pilot is in charge of everything, right? But the co-pilot means is that the next set of eyes. But many people have handed everything over to AI. AI is now the pilot, no longer the co-pilot. And that is why research like this is critical. For you to understand, the more you depend on this system, the more you are killing your mind and your ability to innovate. AI is an assistant. Test your ideas. Poke holes in your own reasoning. Question your own best thinking using artificial intelligence. Sharpen some of your ideas using artificial intelligence. Do not outsource everything to AI. And so the future belongs to thinkers. A chapter, a subsection in my book that speaks to this very topic. The future belongs to thinkers. So if you don't have an ability to think for yourself, if AI is doing all the thinking for you, I saw this, it's a comedy online where someone went for an interview with his AI companion, and they're asking questions. The interview person is asking them questions, and they go back on their phone and they type the question, and then they read back to the interviewer from the phone because they cannot think on their own. And at some point they said, you have used all of your whatever for today. So he got stuck because he couldn't ask AI any more questions, and the interview was just looking at him like, so that is, we laugh, it's funny, but this is our new reality, all right? You need to have an ability to think on your own. Use your thinking even before asking AI questions, because thinkers question what looks obvious. Thinkers connect what others are missing, and you challenge output instead of accepting it. Are there people in the room that perhaps heard about Deloitte? Deloitte in Australia, I'm sure you heard about it. They had a project that they worked on, $1 million project that they worked on, and the ChatGPT output that they submitted in that project were false, and they never bothered to fact check. This is a big consulting company, and if they can make those type of mistakes, imagine the rest of us. This became, I shared the story in the book, this became such an international headline last year, and the Deloitte Australia had to return, I think 40% to the client. Said, we are sorry, someone should have fact checked this. So we are getting to the point where we know the idea of the human in the loop. Right? For the tech people, they understand. The human in the loop means there should always be someone to check the final work AI gives you. But many of us are removing the human in the loop, even many of us sitting in the room. Yes, and this is the irony around it. You are worried about AI stealing your job, meanwhile you are willingly handing over to it. Without it, you don't even have time to fact check. You have already removed yourself from the loop. So when an organization removes you from the loop, don't complain, because you did that to yourself first. If you don't have that ability to question anything AI gives you, Big companies, there's one in South Africa, a lawyer who was fined because he submitted court cases to court that never existed. ChatGPT gave him those court cases and he ran with it without fact checking. It is happening across the globe. This new technology is bringing us new problems we never ever thought as humanity that we'll be dealing with. But here we are. So one of the ways for you to stay innovative is to look for clues outside your immediate industry. This is because AI is blurring the lines between industries. All right? In South Africa, where I'm based, I normally give the example of, okay, let me give the South African example. Let's talk about Apple. We know about Apple Pay, right? Apple used to be a gadget about phones, iMac or Mac and iPhones and all of that. But today, Apple is more of a financial institution as well, or this financial aspect of it to Apple. The same applies to Samsung. It used to be about home appliances and cell phones, but today, Samsung just take anything and put on a jacket, smart jacket. They're not into fashion, right? They put whatever on their shoes is now smart shoes. Watches are now smart watches. Watches used to be something that belonged entirely to the fashion industry, but now it's becoming a tech gadget, right? So Uber rides, they are now a delivery services as well. You don't have to just ride with an Uber. You can send parcels and everything with Uber. Everyone is eating everyone's lunch. So you cannot afford to say, well, I will just focus on what's happening in education. I'm just going to focus on what is happening in healthcare. Maybe you're in healthcare. Or you say, I'm just going to focus on what's happening in agriculture because I'm in agriculture. Hello? Look for clues outside your industry. Because what may completely bring the education system to its knees may not happen within the education system. It may happen entirely somewhere else. And if you're not paying attention to something that is outside your immediate environment, you can easily miss it. So look for clues outside your industry, innovation clues. What is that person doing that could threaten my company, my business? What are they doing that could threaten the entire education system? Even though at this point it is kind of leaping, if you are being honest, there's enough time for us to catch up. I was in Thailand and I had a conversation with a professor from Japan, and he was talking about when ChatGPT entered the marketplace. In fact, we had the conversation, right? So I was talking about when ChatGPT first entered the marketplace, the education system had a cardiac arrest. Oh my God, we have to ban this tool. We have to make sure it doesn't have access to the education system. And I was like, who came up with this strategy? Really? Shouldn't innovation be coming out of education to the world? But it happens somewhere else and the education system says, no, not on our watch, you're not getting in here. That's what some universities did. Hopefully not this one. Put your hands together for Babcock. I love that. Not this one. The Vice Chancellor said not this one. Why? How do you stop a tool that is going to become the new infrastructure of society? How do you stop it from the school system? And you think you're still going to produce future leaders? So my argument, again, in the book, it is that the education system needs to change what they are grading for. It's not just, did you do your assignment with AI? No, perhaps. It should be, show me the assignment you did with AI. Let's see if you can figure out where AI was hallucinating. Go do your assignment with AI. The next day in class, let's figure out together. Let's compare the output from A and from B and from C. Let's come together and figure out, is there similarities to what AI gave both of you? And how else can we make sure that we teach you to fact check whatever AI gives you and to challenge the output AI gives you? That should be the way education should be handling this innovation, not banning it from schools. Banning it from schools is like teaching computer science without a computer lab. and you expect kids to graduate and still function in the world of work today. It's not going to be possible. So this professor in Thailand, who was from a university in Japan, told me that they didn't have that in their school either. That approach to block ChatGPT from their school. Well, initially they had it, but they stepped back and said, but what are we doing? And they open it up for students to play around with this, but under observation and guardrails and put rules in place. That is what should be done for education to remain relevant, not stopping kids from playing around with these tools. As we carry on, a cross-disciplinary mindset, I'm going to be quick on this one, because I know we are running out of time. Again, do not be so narrow-minded in whatever you are doing. Think, again, in different aspects of it, because, for example, when you go to organizations, you see that there is these silos people work in. People in finance have nothing to do with people in marketing, they have nothing to do with people in customer service, but the world in which we are living now requires a cross-disciplinary mindset. For you to understand, you don't have to know everything, but you need to understand at least the basics of each business unit and how it functions, so that you can stay relevant. You don't have that mindset like, oh, I'm in marketing, I will always be in marketing and I will die in marketing. You are not being relevant, right? Someone in marketing who understands finance will do budgeting better, am I right? Exactly. What does the internet say about you? We really don't have much time, especially if you want to look for a job in the future. And this is especially for the students. What type of digital DNA are you leaving out there? Because some people leave all sort of things on the internet and they send a CV that is so perfect. But I can tell you that your digital DNA is the new CV. Whatever you leave online, any company that is going to employ you in future, they will make a decision based on your digital footprint. Today in the US Embassy, you cannot even go for an interview without revealing all your social media handles. Some people call it, oh, it's privacy invasion. Well, it is what it is. That is the new normal. So you cannot think that you will be so different online and then present a perfect CV and everyone will be happy with you. It doesn't work like that. On the other hand, social capital is powerful. When you understand your subject so well that you are sharing with the rest of the world, it gives you an advantage over someone who is just as knowledgeable as you, but they don't share anything online. You could be the best thing since sliced bread, but if no one knows you exist. In today's age and time, many people that are still young and dating, you don't even go on a date without Googling your date. You want to find out, I hope this is not a serial killer. If you Google people before you meet them, even when you want to do business with someone, you go Google them out before that first business meeting. What makes you think an organization is going to employ you without checking your digital footprint? So keep something for Google to talk about you, and it better be good. How many people here Googled me before I came here? I see hands going up. Right. So what type of digital DNA are you putting out there? And young people today are putting a lot of digital DNA that is going to discredit them in the future. There was a lady in HR, when I gave this talk, she gave an example. She said, there was a time there was a guy that they had interviewed, looks perfect on paper, everything was good. So the last step for them to bring him to the team was to check his social media account. And on his social media account, he talks about how women belong in the kitchen. So now, her being the woman who is going to be her boss, had to make the call. And you know what the call was, right? Look for someone else. Because if this is what is predominant on their social media, they will never submit to authority, to a woman. So be careful what you put out there, all right? And don't say, oh, I'm just going to hide. I won't put anything out there. When you are a ghost, you are even more of a suspect. So be visible. Visibility is powerful, okay? So what do you do? When people hear these talks, again, don't say, oh, this is so scary, this is overwhelming, let me just run away from AI. No, that's not the solution. The solution is to get comfortable with the tool, is to experiment, is to learn the basics of it, and to get used to doing it, all right? Because instead of fearing AI disruption, the smarter approach is to learn, experiment, embrace it. Human plus AI beats human alone. Student plus AI beats students alone. The future is not humans alone, and the future doesn't belong just to AI alone. We have to work with this tool. We have to work together. Because if you don't, you cannot compete with someone who is doing it. A student in the room who is using AI to test their ideas and to stretch their ideas and to challenge their best thinking will outperform the student who is relying entirely on manual work. Are you working smarter or you are just working hard? I already spoke about this. I'm going to run through it. AI is not a pilot, right? So, okay, I lost it again. So let's talk about accountability. The danger with AI hallucination is not that these tools give us wrong output. It is that humans accept them without questioning, all right? When AI makes a mistake and someone carries and submit that project without fact-checking, guess who is getting fired? Not AI. So accountability cannot be automated. For people who use these tools without using their brains alongside with it, know that you are going to lose your job. Not because of AI, but because of what I call in my book, AI-induced stupidity. The MC is telling me, hey, it's time to leave. I know. So, there's something I want to quickly get to as we close. Yeah, the two faces of AI. Many of us are so familiar with the Terminator as the face of AI, right? Like I mentioned earlier, when I talk about AI, people will always be like, the Terminator, and they're right. Again, the view on the Terminator is that AI is dangerous, uncontrollable, and will replace humans. The focus is on job loss, surveillance, and all of that. The narrative is that machines will overpower humans. And the emotion it triggers is that of fear. That's when people focus on the Terminator. But there's also the Iron Man model. How many people have watched the Iron Man? Exactly. So the Iron Man model is about AI as an assistant. This is about augmented intelligence. This is about humans and AI coming together to work. All right. The focus is on productivity. The narrative is that AI is a tool, it's a co-pilot, and the emotions it triggers is that of curiosity, empowerment, and collaboration. So you always need to find out which fence are you sitting. Are you on the Terminator or are you on the Iron Man model? Because when you look at when you've watched the Iron Man movie, when Tony Stark steps on the suit doesn't replace Tony Stark, does it? He's still the one inside the suit, pressing those buttons and doing amazing things. That is AI. That is the best way to use AI. Put it on as your Iron Man suit, but remain in control. You decide where that suit flies you to. The suit is not the one in control. So when you put on your Iron Man suit, you become more effective for the world in which we are living today. And so if you sit back and do nothing, you are likely going to be replaced by another human being who is leveraging this technology and learning the skills than you are to be replaced by AI or a robot. So again, the fear is machines are going to replace us. But also, those who know how to use AI, AI is also going to give them more opportunities. And with that being said, what is it going to be? You take action to empower yourself, or are you going to bury your head in the sand and say, well, let's wait this one out and see what happens? So thank you for having me.